At 15, I attended the Eastern Music Festival and heard a masterclass by Yo-Yo Ma. He was a little older than us, and his name sounded like Yo Mama. We would never forget him. And his master class went on for 2.5 hours. And even though I was a trumpet player and above strings and cellos and all that kind of stuff, every one of us looked around and said, man, this dude is like 18 or 19 or something. Listen to all this cello he's playing. We were inspired and lifted. And it's a memory all of us share, and we can remember how startled we were at his greatness and how impressed we were with his humanity and the gracious way that he treated all of us and the time that he spent. And there's never a time that I see him now through these years that I don't hug him and give him love and thank him for that single master class that transformed a portion of what I thought in my own life of what was achievable. I studied it at the Eastern Music Festival with Big John McElroy. He was from Alabama. I was from Louisiana. We played pieces like Handel's Royal Fireworks music and Shostakovich's First Symphony. At the end of camp, one of the conductors, Robert Helmsy, I had heard he studied with William Vacchiano at Juilliard, and I asked him if he would give me a lesson. He agreed. He gave me a 5-hour lesson on the entire Arbon book, no charge. I can still right now remember he and I in this room from 10 o'clock to 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, going through exercise after exercise. This is what this means. This is what that means. This is how you work on this. This is why you play these in all the keys. This is how you jump registers. This is why it's harder to slur down than up. He was a conductor. I didn't even know he played trumpet. As a sophomore, I attended the New Orleans Center for the Creative Arts. It was an experimental arts high school. My father was a jazz teacher, so I took classical music and jazz. My theory teacher was the one and only and the ever great Dr. Bert Bro. He taught us how to analyze the chorales of Johann Sebastian Bach. He taught us how to hear serial music. We listened to pieces like Penderecki's To the Victims of Hiroshima and Schoenberg's Transfigured Night. One of our classes on theme and variation was the Diabelli Variations and his analysis of Miles Davis's performance of My Funny Valentine from a 1964 live concert that he did the transcription of. This man was hip and a great teacher with deep insight into the nature of music and the truth about music. He was not ignorant, he was not prejudiced, he was not a snob. He was someone who believed in educating young people about music, and he left an indelible mark on my life. My father was always teaching us how to swing and play modern jazz. We played songs like Eddie Harris's Freedom Jazz Dance and the Brecker Brothers' Some Skunk Funk. My daddy wrote out Miles Davis's solo on Someday My Prince Will Come for me, and he said, hey man, check this solo out and study the thematic through line. My father also encouraged me to play every gig that came down the pike. I ended up sitting in the circus one night playing 2.5 nonstop hours because I was the youngest, dumbest one there. My father said, man, playing is the best way to learn, not talking. Play. I learned a lot of songs from him. Things like Billy Strayhorn's Lush Life. You had to learn the melody and the words. And hear the story about how Ben Webster stopped playing in the middle of a tune, and they said, what's wrong, Frog? And he said, I forgot the words. I had to learn I Can't Get Started With You, both Bunny Berrigan's version and Dizzy Gillespie's versions. At 16, I played in the New Orleans Youth Orchestra thanks to a young conductor, Gary Sheldon, who started it. We played pieces like Sibelius' Second Symphony and Ravel's Bolero. Now, we sounded terrible playing all of these pieces. It's not something you'll want to hear, but we played them. I attended Benjamin Franklin Senior High School. Our director was Peter Damburian, Armenian. He had every kind of kiss me, I'm Armenian shirt you could imagine. He had great bands in the segregated era at Forshey High School, but integration turned the school from white to black. There went his band. At Franklin, we played pieces like the Virgin of Macarena and the Gustav Holst Suites. He invited me to play with the New Orleans Community Band. It was comprised of older band directors and amateur musicians. We played Sousa marches like the Washington Post and pieces like Bernstein's Candide and West Side Story. We played in parks and outdoor concerts. I learned from this band the value of silence. I always loved the feeling of the silence when these older musicians, some of whom had fought in World War II, would be working on music in their spare time. I actually learned more about rehearsing from them than any of the professional ensembles I played with, because they really wanted to be there and play that music. It meant something to them. I learned about being quiet, and I talked him to death on the rides to and from my house. Every summer, I would attend Kid Jordan's summer camp at Southern University in New Orleans. We played avant-garde jazz music and followed Kid's hand conducting and expressions to guide our improvisations. He always encouraged us to be more expressive. At 15, I met the great Clark Terry. He showed me how to play fast passages and swing. When I was 16, Clark was playing a gig in town. He got up early one morning to see me play Brandenburg Concerto No. 2 with the New Orleans Philharmonic. He sent me a flugelhorn and would periodically send postcards from Europe calling me the demon and stuff like that, generally making me feel good about my playing, even though I was generally sad. I learned Bye Bye Blackbird and the Flintstones as rhythm changes from him.